All right. So I think the way we'll run this today is let me just go through a couple of things about Baiada. I'm going to hand it off to Debbie. She'll fill in anything else that I might have missed. And then I'll allow Debbie to introduce our panelists, and then we'll speak with our student entrepreneurs for a bit. Sound good, everybody? Sounds good. Awesome. Okay. So it's awesome that most of you have been to the Baiada Institute for Entrepreneurship. The Baiada Institute actually predates the Close School. It's been at Drexel in one way, shape, or form since 2001, but became part of the Close School when the Close School was formed 7 years ago. So it's been around for quite some time. A little bit of side history. I was actually an entrepreneur in the Baiada Institute for 2 years from 2008 to 2010 after I did my MBA at Drexel. And one of my startup companies actually incubated in the space for a couple of years. We were in the Baiada Institute Incubator Competition. We leveraged many of the resources. That's when I got to know Debbie many years ago when she was 12 years old. And we had a great time in terms of building out our company. So I kind of knew it from the inside as to, what does it mean to be an entrepreneur in the space? And what does it mean to start something inside an incubator, which is a different experience than prior startup experiences I had that, we weren't part of an incubator. So being on campus, being part of a community of entrepreneurs, having access to faculty and researchers and staff and resources, being in the city of Philadelphia, all those things are like what are some of the most amazing parts of being part of the Baiada Institute. So those of you that will be working on new ideas, whether on your own, with a team, part of a team, that space really serves as our hub and our community and very much an extension of the Close School of Entrepreneurship. So sometimes we refer to it as our lab, right? It's basically our physical space where you can put into practice what you're learning in the classroom. And again, we're open to all students at Drexel, not just Close students. And that's awesome because it gives all of you the opportunity to collaborate with others and hopefully round out some of your experience, some of your skills. And we see all of our teams are very cross-collaborative, which is really awesome. So it just becomes a really great focal point for entrepreneurial activity. As I said yesterday, we are opening in September. We're working on that plan now. I'll actually be in the space again tomorrow night to look at a couple of things, but we're very active in getting the space ready for our current students who are incubating, and then for all of you as you come back on campus, give the opportunity, and it'll be kind of phased in over time, but certainly be an opportunity to be part of that community. Last point I want to make, when we talk about Baiada, we also mentioned the 5 C's, and this won't be on a quiz, but it'll be helpful if you kind of remember what Baiada is all about. So the first C is the one I just mentioned, community, right? Being part of a community of entrepreneurs is really important. We're big fans of peer learning because you can't do it on your own, and you really want to be able to learn from others, other entrepreneurs. If you guys coming in as freshmen can learn from a current senior who's maybe 4 or 5 years ahead of you, all the things that they've had to do to get to where they are in terms of working on their new ideas, working on their initiatives, that's pretty powerful stuff because they've done a bunch of things, they've made a bunch of mistakes, they've learned a bunch of things. So giving the opportunity to learn from others becomes really important. Entrepreneurship is not a solo sport. It is a team sport. And you've got to be able to build a team. You've got to be able to work with others. It's so important. And that community of entrepreneurs is a big part of Baiada. The second part is our competitions. So I think right now we're up to 6 different types of competitions a year. And these range from very lightweight idea pitch competitions all the way through to much more investor heavy or oriented type competitions. Smaller prize money on the idea pitch, bigger prize money on the other side. But the idea with competitions isn't just about winning and the money. It's about what you learn, who you connect with, putting things into practice in terms of how you present, getting feedback, connecting with others becomes a really important part of competition. So be on the lookout for the competitions, not just in your first year, but through all 4 or 5 years that you're at Drexel, you'll have those opportunities to participate in those competitions. Another big part of our agenda, the third C, is content. So those are workshops, our events, our other programs, things like the Entrepreneurship Co-op. So all the other kind of content that you have the opportunity to learn, right? So we bring in guest speakers. We have office hours where we'll bring in experts on certain topics or certain skills such as legal or investment. Our big annual event, Drexel Startup Fest, it falls in that category. This year is going to be a little bit different, at least in the fall. We're probably going to be lighter weight in terms of content for obvious reasons, but we're still going to have some of that content. and we'll certainly kick that in as things clear up and we're able to do a lot more in terms of having people physically congregate. We're working on the Drexel Startup Fest plan. This year it's going to be in mid-October instead of November. We're working on that. It's going to be very participatory, even though elements of it will be virtual. The idea is that it's going to be very participatory and you guys will all have an opportunity to engage with that. Fourth C is about connections, and that's connections to the resources that you need that maybe we can't provide or we don't have, because we can only do so much, but there's a whole universe of stuff out there, of content, of people, of resources, of programs, events, external competitions. There's all this content that we put in front of you, and we have a variety of ways that we do that. One of the things I'll ask Julia's help probably is to get the email, all you guys Drexel emails. I send out a weekly email blast of all the events and programs and everything else, not we're just doing at Drexel, but also what's happening in the Philadelphia area and even some national and even some international programs. So you'll start to see that, and that comes out every week. In the summer we do it bi-weekly, but it'll be every week in the fall. And you want to pay attention to that. I put a lot of work into that in terms of building up that content library. And there's things in there you're going to want to pay attention to as an entrepreneur. So we try to help you and connect with all the right resources. There's so much happening in Philadelphia. You're so lucky to be part of an entrepreneur ecosystem in the city of Philadelphia, and you definitely want to make sure you connect with those resources. And then the last C, excuse me, is coaching. Again, you can't do it on your own, especially as a first-time entrepreneur. You want to learn from others, and you want to learn from others that have experience, whether it's entrepreneur experience or it's in a specific domain area, such as, let's say, marketing or legal or anything else. You want those coaches and mentors and advisors of other people that are going to help you. And we help you with that. So we'll help connect you to those coaches that can really help you take your ideas forward through our platform called Startup Tree. And I highly encourage you to set up your profile on Startup Tree this summer. Julie, maybe we can send out the link to Startup Tree for everybody to get started there. Set up your profile, but there's a mentor match feature in there. You don't have to use that today, but as you're working ideas in the coming months and years, there's going to be coaches that you can connect to. And that's one way that we make those connections. There's other ways we make connections just through people that we know, through our advisory board, through just our networks that we have as faculty and staff. And you really want to, again, tap into those types of things. So that's what we do at Baiada. That's the 5 C's. You know, really, again, is our hub of entrepreneur activity. We're very proud of not only our physical space, but the things that we do every day. And very much looking forward to seeing you guys in the space. So with that, I'll hand it over to Debbie, Debbie Colbert-Mataforo. As I mentioned, I've been Debbie since forever, and I've worked with Debbie now very closely over the past 7 years. And Debbie knows where all the bodies are buried in Baiada, so she can tell you even more than I can tell you about the things that we do. And Debbie really becomes our community manager, is our community manager, and really is the glue that holds the space together. I always call Debbie our part camp counselor and part police. So she both kind of takes care of the space and the community, but also make sure that things are running well and nobody steps out of line. So with that, I'm gonna hand it off to the wonderful Debbie.
Thank you, Chuck. Hello, everyone. How are you this afternoon? So good to see you, Owen. You guys, when you came through the Baiada Institute, did you see me there? Just shake your heads. No? Okay, some of you. Okay. Well, the Institute is the bomb place to be, okay? I'm just going to keep it real. I and my entrepreneurs, and it's very personal, I call them mine, right? It's the best place on campus to be. It's full of energy and support and love. And really, guys, while we would love for you to have a business, right? Working on your initiative. But in the Institute, it's also about the individual, right? We are very concerned about how school's going. Are you eating? Are you sleeping? Did you call home? Did you talk to your mother today? I mean, this is real. I'm keeping it real. Although I treated you all like adults, all my entrepreneurs like adults, but I am a mom, and that it's in me to be that way. And that's why I do so well in the Institute. Everyone initially coming in doesn't have an idea, so don't worry about that. you could collaborate with other entrepreneurs and be a doer, right? Everyone doesn't have the big ideas. You can just be a doer. And I have to also tell you, I love, love, love my job. I love coming to work every day. So being home at this time is driving me a little insane. So I miss my Lindsay, my Paris, my Harrison, but that's okay. I text them every other day. How about that? All right. That's it. I'd like to introduce our entrepreneurs that are here today to speak with you. First I have, and I'll just start at the top of my screen. First I have Lindsay Smith. Lindsay came in as a freshman. She developed an initiative called Fashion Buddy. And just before the pandemic, she pivoted. And now she has an initiative called College Bird. However, Lindsay has many projects she's working on. Our Harrison is a second-year student. He has been our first freshman to place in our incubator competition. So that was a big deal for the Institute for the Closed School. And we have been supporting and loving him from the very beginning. And thirdly, I'd like to introduce our Paris Gramann. Paris is now an alumni, just graduated in June. And Paris is also an entrepreneur with many, many ideas, working on many things. Paris is also a founder of a second edition of her book, Just Be Books, and her partner, Rebecca Lee, a Temple student, is also working on that second book. And with that, Chuck, I'll leave it to you.
Awesome, Debbie. Thank you. And Debbie, feel free to jump in with any questions, obviously.
Thank you.
And Julie, we go to what, 150? Yeah, okay.
I would say let's try to aim for 140, and then we can open up to Q&A. Does that work?
Perfect. Yeah, that works. And yeah.
Yeah, we have we can stop at like 155. Everyone can take a quick break, and then we'll get into our academic sessions.
Awesome. Okay, cool.
Thanks, Chuck.
All right. So so Lindsay, Harrison, and Paris. I got to find you guys on my screen here, but I'm sure you'll pop up here. So so maybe start with Lindsay. Just very briefly, tell us about what you're currently working on, and how did you get started with it?
Yeah, so I came in as a freshman, didn't necessarily have an idea, but I knew I was kind of looking for one, ready to start something. And all of the discussion in class and the discussion with my peers, it gave me a lot of motivation within like the first few weeks. So we also had a peer mentor program, and Paris is my peer mentor, actually. She's also going to be talking later today. And she really gave me the confidence to pick an idea and figure out what questions to ask. And that is how I got started, is just asking questions, talking to people. So I think with all of the support in classes, with my peers, my peer mentor, it really gave me the extra push to get started, keep asking questions, and not get stuck. Because as an entrepreneur, it's really easy to get yourself into kind of this loophole of, I don't know what to do next, I don't know who to go to, how do I take my business to the next step? Probably a million questions that keep you up at night. So my first business was Fashion Buddy, and I actually was rushing a sorority, and I didn't know what to wear because we had a bunch of events we had to go to. And I thought to myself, there's got to be a platform that I don't have to post on, such as Instagram, that I can get feedback, not just from my family and friends, but just from like a mass crowd. So I did some research. There was not. And then I wanted to build it. So I did a bunch of research, again, talked to as many people as possible, and developed an app so that you could decide what to wear by just posting 1, 2, or 3 outfits. And people would swipe on it, like 1, 2, or 3, and there was no likes, no dislikes, promoted confidence. I did that for about 3 years, and I'm a 4th-year student now. I got it launched on the App Store within probably about a year. or less than a year actually, and then built a whole team. That was the hardest part. I will tell you up front that building a team is really difficult, but again, you're surrounded by so many people in the close school that people will help you out here and there, and then eventually you find the right people who believe in the passion and the vision that you're building. And with that team, I decided to pivot Fashion Buddy into College Bird because I ended up just connecting a lot of students and companies, and I found an opportunity there. So I kind of put the app to the side, which was definitely a hard decision, but utilizing what I had learned and utilizing everything that I had built up, the team, the connections, and my network, and decided to do College Bird. So that's what I'm currently working on, and College Bird connects students to companies for innovative projects. So not necessarily an internship, but project-based experiences that let you explore different industry tracks that are up and coming, such as like product manager, chief marketing technologist, digital merchandiser, stuff like that.
That's great, Lindsay. Thank you. And Lindsay's really exhibited, kind of natural curiosity, is always asking great questions, is very persistent, resilient, and those are big, important aspects of entrepreneurship. And Lindsay's kind of sticks with it and keeps drilling down. She talked about the challenges of the team. I don't want to come back to that a little bit later in terms of challenges, but Lindsay's done a great job over the past few years of continue to plod through it. And entrepreneurship sometimes is a long game. Sometimes you look at ideas and think they're overnight successes, but there's actually been years and years and years of work that usually sit behind those overnight successes. So thanks, Lindsay, for that. All right, so up next is Harrison Hertzberg. So Harrison, tell us a little bit about your background, how you got started. I was hoping to see you on a horse today, but I guess not. So we'll, tell us a little bit about what's going on.
Sure. I'm from Idaho, so that's kind of that was the defining feature when I came to Drexel, was that I'm from a rural area. I came to Drexel with an idea actually, but I wasn't too serious about pursuing it. I have a company, AeroPest, now in the Baiada incubator, and I had the idea for AeroPest, which is a spraying drone technology to eliminate pests in elevated areas like wasp nests or bees nests. I had this idea in the summer before I came to Drexel, when I was up on our roof spraying wasp nests and almost fell off multiple times, on a 100-degree day. Not fun. So I had this idea because I was a drone videographer at the time. So it was just this cross-vectoring of a problem and my interests. And I came up with this solution for a spraying drone. So I filed a provisional patent on the invention. And after that, I was accepted to Drexel. So I was really excited about coming to Drexel to potentially pursue the idea, but I knew it wasn't super easy to start anything. So I ended up learning about the Startup Fest competition and entered. And long story short, I was super fortunate enough to win the competition. So that got me the space in Baiada, as well as the startup money I needed. So now we're internationally patent pending on the invention, and I have a great student team that's really passionate about what we're doing, as well as some partners up here in Idaho who are helping me with the technical development and the patents. It's definitely a team effort. Chuck said that, and it's so true. And I've been there for 1 year, and I've already learned that everything that the Baiada Institute represents is exactly what an entrepreneur needs: the support, the community, and showing up there every day, seeing 18 other student startups and their teams working. There's really nothing more motivating than that.
That's awesome, Harrison. Thank you. Actually, I was thinking of you today because I had to spray down a small wasp nest, but it was only about 6 feet up. So I used the hose and just did it that way. But it's like, man, what about Harrison's drone? That would have been awesome. Would have been overkill probably, but.
You should have called me.
Next time. That's what I told my wife. Start looking out for hornets' nests and wasp nests around. So we'll call it Harrison's drone technology. And Harrison, by the way, we've kind of Harrison mentioned this, and I inferred it a bit. So Harrison was our very first freshman who has ever won the Baiada Institute Incubator Competition, which has been going on now for I don't know how long now, 15, 16, 17 years. And as I mentioned, I was actually in that competition back in 2006. We didn't win, but it didn't matter. We didn't win. It actually was just really helpful to us in terms of just helping us develop our idea and get feedback and become part of the community. But Harrison had the great pleasure and honor of winning that, and also won it as a wild card. In the past few years, we've run the competition where we have the top 5 finalists coming out of 5 brackets, and then we pick one wild card, and Harrison was the wild card. and just happened to win coming out of the wild card. So it was pretty fun, pretty amazing story. A lot of people were floored by that. So it was Harrison did a really good job in terms of winning that, and came away with a decent sum of money and connections to other resources to help him build his business, including legal services. So it's a good job on that, Harrison.
Thank you, guys. It's been an amazing experience.
All right, and then up next is Paris Gramann. Paris, again, another amazing entrepreneur, recent graduate, just graduated this year. And Paris, I don't see you on my screen, but I'm sure you're here. Oh, there, you're at the bottom right on my screen. So the wonderful Paris Gramann.
Hey, thank you guys. So I'm Paris. I'm originally from California, came over to the East Coast. So if you guys have questions about that transition, I know we're still in COVID, so maybe that'll take longer than we expect, but please ask away. I got a great family through Baiada. Debbie's my mom away from home, and has really helped me grow as a person and an entrepreneur. The first business that I officially started was Just Be Books. I'll put the links in the chat, but it is a children's book series for mental health. We're already working on our second book out of our 6-book series, and we are working with a school psychologist in our advisory team. And we have a couple other little products too. We're looking to expand and then eventually look at working with a larger publisher, but so far we're all self-published. So my business partner, like Miss Debbie had said, is from Temple University, and I met her through a connection at Drexel. So Philadelphia is pretty big, but it's small enough to really get to know people, get to know the startup scene. In my first year, I went to a ton of events, totally burned myself out, and my learned extroverted self made too many friends for my actually introverted self, but it served me well over the past couple years. And in part, I'm doing the mental health as entrepreneurship, partly from my own learning and growing as a person. So like Harrison said, it's best when you bake in your passions with what you're curious about, and you'll learn something. And Lindsay and I talk about that a lot in the past. With the entrepreneurship side, I ask her sometimes, like, well, have you learned something? She's like, I don't know, maybe I should go away from Fashion Buddy. It's like, well, cool, like we're students, right? Have you learned something? Yes. Okay, then it's done its purpose. And for Just Be, I've learned a lot from it, and I have a second startup too. And I'm now, after graduating from Drexel, I'm an entrepreneur in residence at a local high school, and I'll be teaching high school classes and then working on my second startup. And I'm actually looking to transition and give Rebecca, my business partner, more ownership over Just Be, because I'm finding, okay, I've done what I can do with it. I've learned so much. Now I can be the auntie. Like I was the mama for what it needed to be. I started it, I built it. I have a million ideas, and I think that's part of my strength. So I'm allowed to grow stuff and then give it to people who actually can serve it better than I can. So that's something that I've learned throughout this whole process too, is like, don't feel guilty by playing on your strengths. Learn where your downfalls are, right? And ask people for help, like Lindsay said. Yeah, but just start something, even if you know it's not going to be your long-term thing. Definitely would be really good.
That's great, Paris. And we always give Paris heck because her partner's from Temple University, not Drexel, but it's okay, Paris.
She basically goes to Drexel. So.
We love
Yes.
Rebecca. She's awesome.
Yeah.
But actually speaks to the point. This is a good benefit of being in the city of Philadelphia. There's so many universities around, so many resources around. Lindsay's part of an organization called Start, Stay, Grow, which is an offshoot of another big startup support organization in Philadelphia called Philly Startup Leaders. There's so many ways to find people to collaborate with, to find team members. It just doesn't have to be at Drexel. And sometimes it might even be better that it's not. Sometimes people try to find their teammates or co-founders or business partners, and they think it should be, the person's that their best friend or the roommate or some of their dating. And oftentimes that's not the case. It should be somebody completely different. And being in Philadelphia, I have a lot of opportunities to engage with others and seek out help and resources and new partners and so forth. So Paris is a good example of that. One of the quick thing I wanted to make note of is that you heard a very different set of ideas here, and that's really important. Baiada Institute, we're agnostic, meaning that we work with any type of idea across the university. So it just doesn't have to be, it's not just a tech idea or clothing idea or food idea. It really can be anything. And you see that in the diversity of the types of ideas that we're working on. Sometimes it's very high tech type stuff, and other times it's it's artistic and works of writing and other types of work like that. can be nonprofit type ideas. You guys have all heard of Evan Ellis, Sharing Access, I believe, right? So it doesn't matter what it is, and it doesn't have to be today. You know, it could be 5 years from now, you have an idea, you wake up with an idea, it could be your senior year, and it's like, wow, I finally have something I think that I really want to work on. And we're going to be there. And that's, you know, a big part of Baiada is that we're there and open and ready when you are, and don't force it. You can't really force entrepreneurship. And I think that's another important thing. Spend the time, spend the next few years meeting people, learning as much as you can, being curious, trying things, joining a team, join Lindsay's team or Harrison's team, you know, try some stuff out, get a feel for what they're doing. That's really, really important part of the experience. And again, that's what we hope to provide in Baiada. So I was going to skip a question. I want to ask you guys what's most challenging, but I think maybe what I'll do is skip to next. What resources have you leveraged over the past few years? I know Harris only maybe a year or so, but Paris, Lindsay, and Harrison, what resources have you found most useful at Drexel in terms of helping you get your business and move it forward?
Yeah, I can start. I'm definitely someone who uses all of the resources given to me. So any email that's sent to me, either like competitions that Debbie and Chuck send or Chuck's weekly email, I always look through. There's lots of opportunities in Philly and within Drexel. So, you know, look everywhere. Look for competitions, look for mentors, look for workshops, all of that kind of stuff. Networking events are really huge because you never know who's going to be there. You never know who you're going to meet, and you might as well show up and just, you know, put yourself out there. So I utilize all of the in-person events, all of, like, you know, the competitions like I had just mentioned, and then my peers and faculty. I think that being in a close-knit community like the closed school really is beneficial to the growth of yourself and the growth of your business, because people will talk to you about what you're doing, where you're going, what your vision is. And again, just like I mentioned before, they're going to ask you those questions that help you ask the next questions and keep you going.
Lindsay, can you talk a second about Start, Stay, Grow? And also, are you part of the Ballard SPAR based program?
I was, yeah, that was just a one-year program. So
can you talk about both of those actually quickly?
Yeah. So Start, Stay, Grow is an initiative of PSL, that's Philly Startup Leaders, and it's a student-run organization, and I became the Drexel board member. So essentially we have board members from each school in Philadelphia, so Penn, Temple, Rowan, and Drexel, and I think, you know, we're expanding from there, but those are the 4 we have right now. What we do is create networking events, but we're moving more towards creating just other ways to communicate with students at different universities through our mentorship program and through some other things. So we do weekly think tanks now that this whole COVID thing has started. And Start, Stay, Grow, again, just gives you access to PSL's network and to their events, and just more people in the startup community. So I've been a part of that since I was a freshman. And if you're interested in learning more about that, you can either go on PSL's website, you can contact me directly. But again, there's just so many resources that PSL has also. So definitely give their website a look. And the Ballard SPAR program, I think I did that my second year. So it's basically an accelerator for early stage startups. Ballard SPARs is a law firm, so you get a lot of legal resources when you join that program. And there is a pitch competition at the end. And my year, I actually won the pitch competition. I had no idea I was going to, but they really give you all of the workshops and, again, mentors and resources to expand your network, expand your growth of your business, and meet other students with startups from different universities as well. So again, very much a program that I enjoyed and something I would recommend to anybody. They continue to do that program. So again, if you're interested in that, you can let me know and I can give you the contact or their website. But the base program is really awesome.
Cool. Thanks, Lindsay. I'll switch it up here a little bit. Paris, what have been some of the resources you've leveraged?
Yeah, so I definitely want to echo what Lindsay said, all of the events. As a freshman and sophomore, I went to a ton of events and just met people. And you can be pretty open and honest with what you need and are hoping to look for without being boastful, and just be like, hey, this is what I'm working on. What are you working on? And this is where I need help. People generally love to help each other. Like, we get fulfillment when we get to help other people. So let other people do that with you, if you're clear and concise about what kind of things you need at the moment, people are generally quick to connect you with resources. So allow yourself to do that. And then Debbie, I mean, I always say this in terms of resources, Debbie is one of my best friends and mentors and guidance counselors and mothers. And she's helped me get through so much at Drexel, both entrepreneurial and in life ways. So if you can find your advocates at the university and really lean on them and know that, like, none of us know what we're doing when we come into school at 18. We have like goals and ideas and lots of ideas, and just allowing people to help you get guidance through it has been really helpful to me.
Well, thanks, Paris. And then lastly, Harrison, what resources have you found most useful?
Yeah, I'd say Debbie and Chuck are like a two-part scaffolding. They kind of are. And then the other part of that scaffolding are the Baiada entrepreneurs and the team members, because they send out so much content, and you're going to run into them all the time if you're up there in the space just hanging out. You're going to have conversations with them and tell them about your problems and your struggles and your wants and your desires, and they're going to look out for stuff just subconsciously and forward you links and send opportunities and make LinkedIn connections. It's pretty unbelievable what just showing up and talking to someone can do for your overall execution of a startup, an idea, a business plan, a service. I'd say the other resource is being in the space. I had a really interesting experience. All of a sudden, I'm there till 2 a.m. every day, watching people leave, watching people come. It's pretty unbelievable to see people of that age have that much discipline working on these projects, whereas a lot of people, just don't do that at that age. It's pretty inspiring. So whenever you have a loss, a personal loss, whatever, a business loss, you don't win a competition, the motivation is around you 360 degrees. You're never going to lose sight because you've constantly got people who are really doing it. And that's what I didn't have in Idaho, and came to Drexel, and immediately I went from 0 entrepreneur friends to an incubator of entrepreneur friends. And that was the biggest thing.
That's awesome, Harrison. And a lot of those will be lifelong friends, right? I mean, it's just like college in general. We've even had one marriage come out of 2 people that met in Baiada. So, who knows what can happen, right? So it's really cool to be part of that community, and as you're part of it, as being close school students especially. But again, we're open to all students across the university, but as close school students, you're even a little bit closer to the action, obviously. So that becomes really cool. So Julie, I think we should open it up for questions for a couple of minutes. I know, we're going to be, we're pushing through a tight agenda here, but any burning questions for Lindsay, Harrison, or Paris, or for
I have
Debbie?
something really quick, if
Yeah,
possible. I want to say with the resources and stuff, if you guys, speaking from the mental health, I feel like I have to say it. If you guys, there's so many resources, and coming in as a freshman, use them up, but also like take a feeling of how am I doing right now. If you're burnt out, like stay home. Sometimes it can get weird and you feel guilty because you're around all of these amazing entrepreneurs who are doing stuff and they're like running hardcore. And then so you feel kind of guilty. You're like, oh, I'm not going up to par, but like take a breather. They take breathers. We all take breathers, but we almost sometimes feel like we need to hide them so that we don't, look like we're slacking with amongst each other. But like take a breather. Like if you have, you're running, you're not sprinting, so you'll have sprints, but yeah, stay home and watch TV and you'll tomorrow you'll be productive again. But there's the mental health note there for you guys.
Thanks, Paris. That's awesome. Okay, so any questions? Who wants to jump in?
And feel free, everyone, if you want to write your questions in the chat, I'll monitor that in case you don't feel like talking. That's okay. Chuck, I actually have a question to start off that people might be thinking about.
Sure.
I don't have an idea. I don't want to start my own company. I don't, I'm not really interested in going out on my own. How can I still get involved in Baiada outside of, if I don't want to start my own thing?
Sure. I think a big part of that is looking at the startups that we have in there and consider joining one of the teams. That's a great way to get started. I highly encourage you to do that. Look at the roster of companies we have in there. Use both our website, the Baiada website, but also the Startup Tree platform, and you can do searches. You can not only search for team members, but you can search for companies, and just a great way to get involved. Every startup is looking for help and for skills, and you maybe have a certain skill. Maybe you're good at art, or maybe you're good at writing, or maybe you're good at website development. Maybe you're good at whatever. Maybe you're good at calling people on the phone, because believe me, that's a big part of entrepreneurship, is getting comfortable with talking with people. It doesn't matter what it is. Everybody's going to need help. So I'd say that's just a great way to get started. So, and I think it was Harrison that implied this bit, but 80% of life is showing up, and it really is. Like just being there, like coming to events, coming to workshops, participating. Just you don't know what's going to happen just by being part of something. And I found in my career, most of my success has just come from being around things and just happening to be part of a conversation, or running into somebody, or getting connected to somebody. And that's, I've never had a job interview. I've never had to have a job interview after my first job in college, because I just always leveraged the power of the network and showing up, and just either created my job or found something that I wanted to do or be part of. And I definitely want to do that as part of not only your Baiada and close school experience, but your college experience. Katelyn, you had a question, I think.
Hi. Yeah, I was just a little curious because, I know, the three of you are friends, or, at least to some degree. And I was kind of curious as if the three of you were to get together, what company do you think you would start? Where do you all relate in a way?
It's a good question.
I
So
think
Lindsay, Paris, and Harrison, if you guys came together with an idea, what it would look like?
I think we would definitely leverage kind of the struggles that we all go through, whether it's being a startup and how to start a startup and some tool or resource for that, or something around maybe building teams. I don't know, what do you guys think?
Definitely could be the mental health of pests who are lacking fashion sense. That's
I was
my
thinking
main
the
thing.
same thing, Paris.
No, I'd agree with Lindsay.
I was thinking maybe Harrison's drones can deliver Paris's books to fashion challenged individuals who are suffering because of they're not dressed well.
Right.
Yeah, or maybe well-dressed drones that also give little inspirational messages.
There you go.
I think that's something.
That's fun.
And help with college projects.
I like that.
They do
Well-dressed
your
drones.
homework.
I think that's a new website domain, well-dressed drones.
Yeah. Probably.
I'm gonna go
We
register.
should,
Thanks,
somebody should
Katelyn.
grab that now.
Gonna be a new subreddit.
Trademark that one.
And I think that we did have a couple questions in the chat. And thank you, Paris, for answering them real time. You are wonderful. So we had the question from Katie. Paris, can you share a little bit more about what you did as a volunteer at Baiada? And Kayleen said, how did Lindsay and Paris get spots in the lab? Do you have to win the Startup Fest competition? And Paris did answer the questions within the chat, but
Let me clarify that. Yeah, a little bit. So being part of the space is designed for work, right? So it's designed not just to hang out. It's not hangout space. It's not the library. It's not study hall. It's actually space for active engagement. So you have to be doing something or part of something, to be in the space, more or less. So that's what we encourage you to do is, become part of something or create something. And then, there's a wide variety of ways that we work with entrepreneurs. And we have a bit of a continuum from, early mentor meetings and conversations about your idea all the way through to getting space. But we've got a model for that. Sometimes things like winning competitions is an automatic for you. But other times it's really just a series of conversations leading up to, wow, it looks like this person's serious about the idea. Let's now give them some space, and then we move that up over time into more permanent space. That's how we worked with, I know with Lindsay and Paris especially, it was always started with a conversation. And if they come back, after a couple of months, after we've said, okay, go do X, Y, and Z, we know they're serious about it. And then, it kind of goes from there. So it works out really well in terms of a model. But, otherwise, becoming part of a team, joining a team, working with a team is another great way, even without an idea.
Yeah, I would also say for me, I kind of navigated Baiada and just started to meet different people. I went to Debbie also, and she introduced me to a bunch of people. And from there, I kind of kept coming back and kept asking more questions. And I ended up kind of shadowing a couple of people within their startups, seeing what they do day to day. And then, checking in with Chuck and getting more advice from people. So eventually over time, you kind of build up your network and your connections and you start to really build something. And then, that's when I think Chuck approached me and was like, would you like some space here? I think, it might be the time. So eventually it kind of just happens. It's not something you should think about like day one, what, I need a space if I want to be successful. It's more about being part of the community and being part of that like ecosystem that we're building. And then everything follows from there.
All right, peeps, we have about 5 minutes, and I do know we had some really good questions. Again, Paris, you're wonderful. Thank you for answering in the chat. So one of the questions, Sydney said, after knowing your idea, how did you know where to start? And then Sal asked Harrison in particular, as a first-year student, what was your mindset for preparing, pitching, and putting together your idea?
Yeah, I can answer that. I really didn't know where to start, and that was my mindset. I've never really done a serious startup before. I come to Drexel, I'm a freshman, and I figure, if not a lot of freshmen have ever done it, there's really no downside. So that was my mindset. I just went in as a show up, and whatever happens, happens. And initially, I was in a round, and I didn't get to the finals. I was the wild card last minute. So sometimes you think you've lost, and it comes around to be a different outcome at the end. So just showing up gets you a lot of brownie points, for sure. And my mindset with pitching and putting together the idea, I mean, it took a while. It took months to put all together the research and call these pest control companies and put together a prototype. I mean, it was a ton of work, but I knew that either way, win or lose, it was all going to come in handy. I needed this material for 1,000 other missions, So that's my mindset.
That's great.
And Harrison, correct me if I'm wrong. Did you work with the IDEA club to work on your pitch?
A little bit, yeah. IDEA is in that large, it used to be like a car manufacturing plant or something. They're in that big building where they've got a huge makerspace. So there's 3D printers, there's tools, there's workbenches, there's metalworking, there's people who make formula racing cars. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff in there. So there's real fabricators and talent and technical people. And those people, they want to do a project and put these skills to work, but a lot of times they don't have the project. So all these people love to jump on board because they're just passionate about it. And you've got to be a jack of all trades as an entrepreneur, but you can also just be a team member and do specialized tasks that you want to do and not have to mess with all the other stuff that you don't know how to do.
Cool.
Go back real quickly on Sydney's question about after having an idea where to start. So that's where we come in to help. Like, don't feel like you don't have any guidance or, it's all very confusing. We'll sit down with you. We have you fill out what's called an idea assessment questionnaire, and then we'll sit down with you and go through that and understand your thinking and your idea, and then point you in the right direction. And usually, for me, it tends to be, or I sit down with Roger or Damien or some of the others, Dr. Z, and usually what we'll do is, we're going to do some critical thinking with you. We're probably going to task you to go do a few things, but that's going to be part of the guidance of what you do next. And then you come back to us, and then it's a very iterative process from there. But again, you're around other entrepreneurs, which is really important, and around individuals like myself that have been there and done that. So don't feel like I got an idea, don't know what to do, where to go, and so forth. You've got people that can help you go through that process, go through that journey. Roger had a question. How do you maybe we open this up for Paris? How do you maintain personal and professional relationships outside of your academic and entrepreneurial endeavors? So Paris, you talked a lot about time management and how to kind of figure all this stuff out. So how do you maintain even the right balance there? Because that's hard.
Yeah, I mean, I could show you guys my Google Calendar. I have it open. But yeah, I block out things. I also am doing like 2 part-time jobs right now, have 2 startups that are open. So I get really stressed out and I try to do a lot of things, and it excites me. So I'm not good at doing one thing, but then doing 7 things isn't good either. So I'm learning that as a young person. But yeah, the Google Calendar blocking, I've gotten some crap from friends before. They're like, oh, you're putting me in your calendar. And I'm like, yes, because I'm sorry, my brain's not awesome. And I'm going to forget to go to coffee with you if I don't. So you have to like kind of be, if that's what works for you, that's what works for me. So I have to stick up for myself in that. And then I schedule phone calls with people too, you know, not like that. I mean, like I would just call mom, right? But yeah, that's what I do. And I have a couple different emails too. So that I all funnel it to my personal email. And I put it all on my personal calendar. So it's really just, you're trying to do a lot of things, have one central hub, and that's Google Calendar for me. And then also I cancel. I mean, that sounds crappy, but sometimes I cancel on people because like speaking of mental health, like I'll go through little depressive points or I'll get really anxious and overwhelmed. And then, you know, it's just like, hey, something came up, or you could just say, hey, I'm a little overwhelmed. Can we meet this time next week? And people are pretty cool about it. So yeah, it's like knowing your boundaries and allowing yourself to have them as a young person and growing is how I'm trying it out.
Thanks, Paris. That's awesome. And time management is, you know, throughout your entire life is one of the most important things you have to do. Even I struggle with it. And I'm, you know, a zillion years old, and you know, you've got to be able to really manage your time effectively and do things like block time at your calendar, which I'm getting better at. Debbie's always trying to schedule time on my calendar. Like, no, Debbie, like Mondays and Fridays are my focus time. No meetings. I got to be able to do stuff like project work, and it's really important. So, all right. So we're at 1:55. So I think, Julie, we've got to wrap up this segment here. We could go on forever. I love doing this, having these conversations. This has been awesome. I hope you guys at least, you know, got a few little nuggets here of kind of information that will be helpful to you in the coming days, weeks, and months. And I know I'm very much looking forward to you in the innovation ecosystem class. And we'll be covering, you know, a lot of other territory when it comes to the resources, not just the Baiada resources, but other resources at Drexel and University City and Philadelphia in general. So very much looking forward to that. So with that, Julia, I'm done.
Cool. Thank you to Chuck and Debbie and Paris and Lindsay and Harrison. Awesome. That was really helpful. And something, just a quick tip for organization and calendars and stuff like that. Through Drexel, everyone has access to free Microsoft Office Suite. So you can download all of that for free. So take advantage of that. You get free Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and included in that is Outlook. So I teach University 101, and that is something I tell all my students. Try to get used to using Outlook. It will make your life a lot easier. And it's all free through Drexel, so why not take advantage of it? So just my final Julia's tip of the day on organization. So thank you again to our Baiada peeps.